Hello, this is Arielle of the Inconspicuous Bear, and I'll be narrating the 10-man version of the Galakras encounter in Siege of Orgrimmar from a Guardian point of view. Galakras is a multi-phase encounter which has two distinct tank roles over the course of the fight. In the first phase, there'll be one tank on the ground, and then another tank going to each of the two towers off to the left and right-hand sides. And in the second phase of the encounter, there's a swap mechanic where one tank will be tanking the dragon, and the other tank will need to swap off the tank at a given interval, usually around 5 or 6 stacks. Kind of depends on how much gear you have, how good your healers are, and how comfortable you are handling with it. If you are going to be the tank that will be doing the towers in this fight, there's one thing you primarily need to watch out for. It's called Arcing Smash. Now, this is ability used in the first tower. Creates a little kind of earthquakey little effect on the ground in a cone in front of the mob at the top of the tower. I don't have any footage of this because I always do the ground. I never go in the towers. But it's kind of like an earthquake-like effect. It does a bunch of physical damage, and then it'll knock you off the tower. For us, it's not really a big deal because we have Wild Charge and Skull Bash can get back on the tower pretty easily. But you want to kind of avoid that happening in the first place. So just watch out for effects on the ground and stay out of them for the first tower. The second tower, the special ability is just face them away from the group. Big whoop. Not a big deal. All in all, the towers are pretty easy. Just kind of run up, tank some ads, kill the guy at the top. If you're the tank that's going to be staying on the ground for the duration of the encounter, the first thing you'll notice is that Jaina casts a blizzard in a set location every time. It's not a timer, I don't know what the timer is, but every so often she'll cast a blizzard, which does 200,000 frost damage to anything inside it. Or any enemies inside it. When you're first learning the encounter, it's probably a good idea to make sure you drag all the mobs inside it because they die faster. But once you get even 2 or 3 kills on it, it won't even matter, and you're better off mostly just tanking them where the mobs spawn, or pretty close to it, because it's easier to do that rather than dragging them like 30 feet back to the blizzard, which is a real pain in the ass. In addition to the blizzard, there are several other abilities used by the, I guess, quote-unquote trash mobs that spawn that you have to be aware of. The first is a mob called a Dragonmaw Flagbearer. These guys will drop a war banner next to them, pretty much, that increases the damage and attack speed of anything in its radius, any friendly target in its radius, so mobs, by 50%. These banners only have like 1 hit point, so you can literally target them with an auto attack, and they will fall over and die. It's really easy to do, and since it's more, you do less damage than the DPS does, obviously. You should be the one taking care of the war banners for sure. The second kind of mob you need to pay attention to is called a Shaman. I can't remember if it's like a tribal shaman or a war shaman or whatever, but it's a shaman. Basically, they chain cast Tidal Wave, which looks exactly like a typhoon, like a druid's typhoon, except it does a whole bunch of nature damage, and it's AoE, and they chain cast it. So you can have it interrupted, and you can also stun them, interrupt them, knock back them, pretty much anything to interrupt their tidal wave. They also drop a healing tide totem. It dies pretty much instantly, not really much to worry about there. But interrupting tidal wave, making sure they get locked down, is pretty much of the utmost importance. And the last kind of trash mob you need to worry about is something called a Dragonmaw Bone Smasher, Bone Cracker, something like that. Anyway, they use an ability called Fracture, which means they charge something, and just basically start laying into it. So they charge it, it gets stunned, and they just start pulling it with melee attacks. Primarily, they'll use this on some of the NPC allies that you'll see throughout the fight. Since you can't complete the encounter if the NPCs die, because it causes you to fail, you basically need to get them off the NPCs as soon as humanly possible. This is usually done with Typhoon, so once they charge, you will turn around, look at them, and Typhoon them. And since Typhoon is 30-yard range, it's really easy to do. You don't even have to be anywhere close to them. Just Typhoon them, and then they'll just come running back to you. As a tank, the last ability you need to worry about is something called the Flames of Galakras. When Galakras comes down, he or she, or whatever it is, I don't know, will summon this giant red flaming sphere above its head. And that will travel towards a target. The thing is, for every person it touches, that person gets a debuff which increases fire damage taken by 10%, but also reduces the size of the sphere. The person tanking Galakras will always get hit by the debuff every single time. Now, the way you avoid getting basically insta-kill between the melee and her fire breath and the flaming sphere and pulsing AoE is you need to trade off usually around 5 or 6 stacks. maybe 7. I don't know. Depends on your gear and how well you know the encounter and how comfortable you are, etc., etc. So when you need a swap, just call for a swap. And then to reset your stacks, you need to move off to the side. You can still be within melee range of Galakras, but you can't be in the direct line that you will be forming for the orb to travel over. As for taking items, I definitely recommend using the DPS cloak for this encounter. There's a ton of cleave. You're basically fighting adds constantly the entire fight, which means there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you to do extra damage where you would otherwise not be able to. For the legendary gem, definitely go with the tank gem. There's a lot of constant damage, and while spike damage isn't really particularly a threat, once you start taking the dragon, you'll definitely be thankful for having the 20% damage reduction up a lot of the time. Moving on to talent recommendations, definitely recommend Wild Charge for the first tier talent, no matter which tank role you're filling. If you take it for the towers, be able to get back on if you get knocked off by accident. Otherwise, definitely a lot of movement back and forth between the Blizzard and the ad spawns, so no real reason not to take it. For the tier 2 talents, you can't really go wrong with either Snarling Ward or Ysera's Gift. There's a lot of constant damage that goes out, so making use of Snarling Ward isn't too terribly difficult, and of course Ysera's Gift is just an ongoing heal, so nothing really to miss there. Tier 3, you take Typhoon. There is no option, you always take Typhoon. This is purely for the dealing with Fracture. It's by far the easiest way to do it, because you can do it from massive range, and it totally negates the entire ability. For Tier 4, Incarnation or Soul of the Forest, your pick, doesn't really matter. Tier 5, if you want Bash, for another stun on the Shamans, or knocking the Bone Crackers out of Fracture as well. Just general CC. And then for Tier 6, either Geomisnarius or Nature's Vigil, there's no real opportunity for you to make use of Heart of the Wild at all, except potentially during the last phase, although it's kind of iffy. Depends on how long your swaps are and so on and so on. Other than using charge to get back on the towers, there isn't really anything cool that a Guardian can do on this encounter. Just general tank and spank stuff. Nothing really too fun. I mean, Typhoon on the Bonecrackers, sure, but other than that, it's just general interrupts and CC and AoE DPS. I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck on your Galakras encounter. Fuck Varian, you tool!
I'm going out to reset my
Okay.
10 sec.
Yeah, no problem.
Resetting?
Yep,
Resetting as well. I'll take this one.
Not all of you can do it at once.
Call if you want an AMS. Sorry.
Did you taunt? I take it you taunted.
Yes.
Going back in.
I need to reset my stacks.
I'll be back in on the next orb. Cam in.
Back in.
Wow, that fight's fucking easy when it works correctly.
Yeah, I know, right?